The reality is, in today's world, one needs to be a lawyer before hiring a lawyer. The legal system, like many other systems, is not immune to cultural and societal prejudices. Often what happens is that these biases seep into the deciding authorities, which cause misinterpretations and or denial of justice. Can you imagine the judicial system leading to denial of justice? Ironic, isn't it? Well, that's the reality of today, and I'm sure we all are familiar with it in our own ways. But let me tell you a recent incident that happened that was a point of confirmation for me personally. Just a few days ago, my friend went out with her social group on a Friday night, like many young people do, to socialize and have a good time. What was supposed to be a good time turned out to be a nightmare right before her eyes. And the cause? Intoxication. She was forced into intoxication. When the police were involved in this, not only did they completely disregard the coercion, they proceeded to vilify her based on their personal convictions. As much as this one incident infuriates all of us here, she is not the only one. The reality is, she is one of the many. Basis the status of policing in India report 2021, upwards of 60% of the common people in parts of India do not have complete trust in the police for taking cases forward in a dignified manner. 60%, and that is a majority. The reasons confessed for such distrust include but are not limited to, firstly, personal and cultural convictions seeping in from the police's end. Second, distrust from the civil society's side to the police that the police will take their cases forward in a timely manner. And thirdly, inequitability of the victims before the law due to blatant maltreatment of the victims. The funny thing is, however, all of these issues which I just mentioned are subverted by the very nature of the rule of law. The rule of law revolves around a singular principle quoted by Albert Van Dicci, which says, everyone is subject to obey the law, granted that the law is capable of being obeyed. The virtues which make the law capable of being obeyed are but four. Firstly, it must encompass the society it wishes to govern through clear and prospective laws. Secondly, it must demonstrate consistency in its application such that the outcome is foreseeable. Thirdly, independence of the judiciary in taking all of their decisions. And fourthly, equitability of all the victims before the law. As we can see here, the law is made to encompass the society it governs and only is for our empowerment and to uphold our human dignity. It is important to note that the perception that law is but a punishment for all of us only stems from its arbitrary use. Speaking of arbitrary use, I would like to point out that there is a depiction of stereotyping from the police's end towards high schoolers, as we can see. And I don't mean to say this for every extension of the judicial law, but it is important to acknowledge the small portion of people who have to deal with the stereotyping. The police stereotype the youth to be reckless and prone to lying and therefore find it to be a hard time to present them at an equitable standpoint before the law. And it is not just towards these youth. Even the youth feel hesitant in seeing the police as their guardians of their autonomy and their dignity because of the infamous nature of police brutality which we can see in India, the United States, and many parts of the world. Through this, we can see that there is a conflict arising from both ends, and I believe it's time for a revolution. The transformative power of literacy enables us to unleash a long overdue paradigm shift in our understanding of the law. My proposal is a curriculum which integrates legal literacy as an important component for high school students, with emphasis on the virtue of law basis the three principles of all-encompassing, consistency, and equitability, because along with the obvious statutes that do exist, it is these 3 points which are the points of empowerment. And I believe every individual should be aware of these to know about their rights and to seek them out from the right authorities. I see literacy as a passage between point A and B, point A being our current perceptions of the law, and it does not matter what they are, whether they be useful, useless, right, wrong, whatever our perceptions of the law may be. I want the passage of literacy to be such that it carefully guides us towards a common consensus that the law is there but to empower us. And to depict this change in perceptions, I like to use an analogy. Let's take a circle representing society. Now, let's take another circle which encompasses the rule of law on that society. Notice how the diameter, the shape, as well as the placement of the circles are the same, because it is the rule of law that encompasses a singular society, and therefore it must encompass that society in totality. Now, when external biases approach, as we discussed from the example, we see that the rule of law and society displays, like when we say playing an instrument, when we try to play the law through our external biases and prejudices, we see what happens to an instrument. It displaces, it causes chaos, and most of all, it causes noise. Instruments cause a lot of noise. But let's take another approach to this. What if we pin the law instead of playing it? What if instead of playing the law through our external biases and prejudices, we consider the principle of consistency which the virtue of law displays, and we throw a dart, we treat it like a dartboard and we pin the law concerned? Is there any disruption? Is there any chaos? Is there any noise? No. But the fact is, even understanding this distinction between pinning the law versus playing the law requires a form of legal literacy. So, now I would like to tell you why legal literacy is important at the high school level. See, as we discussed through the example cited, high schoolers are at that tender age and that tender stage at their life where they are walking a tightrope, trying to balance between the vices they are introduced to and the societal pressures, all while trying to find their path towards the life they want to live. And I believe it is their right to know that the law is by them, right by them, all the time. I believe it is important for them to know what the law stands for before what it comprises of, hence the emphasis on the virtue of law. And not only will knowing what the law stands for and its virtues empower this current generation, I believe it would cause a ripple effect if we include it in the educational curriculum, and it would impact the generations to come as well. It's not just about a change of perceptions, it's about understanding what the rule of law stands for so that we can uphold it in the manner that it originally strives for. On a concluding note, I would like to mention that legal literacy is not just an academic pursuit or something for the intellectuals. I believe that legal literacy is a fundamental tool in navigating the complexities of the legal system and ensuring a more fair and a more just society. Isn't that what the law strives for in the first place? It stems from morality, and I believe when we understand the moral virtues and all that the law stands for, we become more capable as a society of upholding that. Thank you so much.